So I'm really excited to invite Ashley, Aparna, Mashiat, and Melissa to join me for the Women in Blockchain at Berkeley panel. These are some really amazing women who are in university and are still accomplishing groundbreaking feats in the blockchain space. They're doing so many cool things. So first, I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they're working on.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? My name is Ashley Lannquist. It's so nice to see all of you here today. I'm an MBA student here at Berkeley, and I have a couple projects related to blockchain that I work on. One is working with automakers down in Silicon Valley. I've been working with several of them for a couple months, innovating with blockchain technology, so very much on the enterprise application side. Another, as a side project, I love to invest in cryptocurrencies and read about them. I've been doing that for about a year and a half. I also initiated and co-directed an executive education program here at Berkeley with the president and other leaders of blockchain at Berkeley, and that's through Berkeley Law called Blockchain Unlocked. So we do 3-day intensive blockchain executive education programs. And I love to promote the cause of women in blockchain, so being a part of this initiative has also been fantastic. So that's what I focus on related to blockchain.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aparna Krishnan. I'm the head of education at Blockchain at Berkeley. I've taught a course called Introduction to Blockchain. It's the fundamentals course on blockchain to about 200 students at Berkeley. I've also taught portions of the executive education program with Ashley. I'm currently working on a lot of crypto economics and proof of stake research with Alexis.
Hi guys, I'm super excited to have all of you here. My name is Mashiat Mutmainnah. I am the current head of finance for blockchain at Berkeley. I started off as an external project manager. I worked on statistical analysis with Augur, which is a decentralized prediction market. I've worked with Melissa, my co-lead, on decentralized energy resources and how to minimize energy wastage in a community that uses decentralized energy resources, or DERs. And that was with Wangxiang Blockchain Labs. We won second place, and we were in the top 3 winners. We won 10K, and that was a very awesome experience. I've also worked on designing supply chain management systems with a couple of global clients. Other sort of spaces in the industry that I have focused in is Ico Due Diligence. So I used to work at Ambisafe, which is an ICO asset management platform. And out of that, I sort of realized that there is a need for independent, autonomous ICO filtering in the space. We just need to have a mechanism and a routine due diligence process to filter through all the noise. And that's why me and one of my colleagues, Griffin Haskins from Blockchain at Berkeley, we created Veritas Due Diligence, an in-house ICO due diligence research unit for venture firms that are entering the crypto space, and also just for the public subscribers, for public, in where we provide our due diligence reports for free. And yeah, so currently I'm also focusing on supply chain systems for agricultural processes. And I'm also looking into microfinance and financial inclusion using digital currencies for global remittances.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Mokhtari. How do I take this out? I just don't. I'm a project manager at Blockchain at Berkeley. I'm currently overseeing a consulting project for BMW, which I inherited that position from Ashley. And we're working on automotive and financial use case analysis for the company. In the past, I've also led and co-led projects related to energy, both for distributed energy resources and also renewable energy finance with teams at Blockchain at Berkeley. On the side, I run the Blockchain at Berkeley blog, which is an online publication platform that showcases the work that our members are doing on a weekly basis. It helps highlight their progress as well as kind of show to the community what's going on inside the org. That's blockchainatberkeley.blog. I'm a senior at Berkeley studying math with an emphasis in power engineering. And when I graduate, I'll be working at Facebook as a project manager for their data center infrastructure. And all of that comes from the knowledge and experience I learned within this organization and within this industry and by going to events like these. So I'm really happy to be here.
Perfect. Really great to hear about all of your guys' initial experiences. And speaking of initial experiences, I think everyone here would be kind of curious as to how you all initially got into the blockchain space. Yeah, I was going
I came to Berkeley interested in fintech during my MBA program, and I was curious about blockchain just as I was about AI, and I was very lucky that blockchain at Berkeley existed here. In case you aren't aware, it's the largest university-based blockchain group in the world, and we're very lucky to have it. And so I was taught by some members of the audience like Sunny Agarwal and our former president Max Fang and Aparna about the mechanics of blockchain from a very fundamental basis, building up that knowledge over time. And as I continued to learn about blockchain and also start to invest in cryptocurrency, I became very intellectually fascinated by it, and I loved to spend more and more time reading the white papers and learning about it and discussing it and seeing the speakers that come to speak here at Berkeley. So that added depth to my interest and knowledge, and I just continued to sort of snowball and spend more and more time on it. So it's really kind of learning about it and being more fascinated and drawing on the resources here at Berkeley.
So when I came to Berkeley, I was super interested in abstract algebra. I did a lot of math in high school, and I was interested in cryptography. And when I first heard about Bitcoin and blockchain, I was like, oh, maybe this is an application of cryptography. And I learned a lot more about it. The first course that was ever offered at Berkeley on blockchains, taught by like Sunny, taught by the former president Max Fang. And it was really interesting to me to see how it was such a small space, but there was so much going on in it. There were all these thoughts about how to scale the blockchain, these things like block size debates, these things like game theoretic attacks on the network. And from there, I just started reading a lot of white papers, and I was drawn into the space.
So I came into Berkeley as an applied mathematics major. I'm a junior now, so I'm a double math and econ major. And I came in really interested in microfinance and financial inclusion. I'm ethnically from Bangladesh, so microfinance is a very close topic for me. And looking at developing communities and just looking at how we could bypass corrupt middlemen and get payments and remittances to communities that really need them so that they can have sustainable entrepreneurial innovation inside of them. And that's how I kind of came across digital currencies and Bitcoin, and soon realized that Bitcoin didn't provide the correct infrastructure to support those sort of payments and those sort of payment channels. And that's how I got interested into blockchain, which was the infrastructure behind Bitcoin and how we can expand from that. And I kind of used blockchain at Berkeley as a tool for my own learning. I knew that I wasn't going to be self-disciplined enough to go and explore it myself. So I wanted to be a part of a community that would, encourage me to learn more and dive deeper. Sorry, it's been a long day for me. But you start reading white papers, you start going to deep dives, you start interacting with people and start using all of these wonderful terms, like blockchain. I mean, they're buzz terms now, but back when we started, they actually meant something, and that's what we're trying to do here. And just fall down the rabbit hole, and that's where I am, doing external projects and working with awesome people.
So up until my junior year of college, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know why I was majoring in math, but I just thought it was fun sometimes. I took an entrepreneurship class at Berkeley in the middle of that year, and then I was like, I kind of like the tech business thing. I'm gonna look into that. And blockchain at Berkeley was recruiting for their first kind of major recruitment cycle that semester. And I started learning about blockchain through their info session events and just through that community. I joined the organization and started kind of just hit the ground running with like studying as much as I could every day, more than I did for my own classes. And doing like internal projects and researching how it can be applied to the fields I was interested in. And those fields were things that had to do mostly with like climate change and like environmental justice, which is ironic because you might have heard that blockchain can be a little bit like counterintuitive in that sense. We can talk later. But I think it's good anyways that if you care about those causes, it doesn't make sense to avoid the industry. It's better to actually get into it so that there can be voices for those issues along with the innovation. And blockchain is a really potentially powerful tool that I think will be seen more and more as the years go by. And the time to start learning about it was yesterday. So that's that. There are like awesome people at every, every project I work on, every community event for blockchain. Like people get so excited about it. And I've never kind of like experienced that sort of energy in other industries before. So this is a really like unique opportunity to get into this space.
Yeah, really, really cool. And I think the common theme that we see here is that for everybody on this panel, getting into the blockchain industry really did a lot for them and helped them harness their passions in different ways. And like Melissa said, it's a really unique industry. So one thing that I would be curious to hear is, what are some of the most unique experiences you've had in this space? Some of the coolest things you've been able to do, some of the people you've been able to meet, some of the most outlandish things that have happened as a result of doing this kind of work?
Sure. So I came into college, and one thing that really interested me was the energy grid, because I thought that it's something that pretty much impacts like most communities that I know of. And if it doesn't impact them, it should, and people need it. However, it had a lot of problems. It's obviously like not sustainable in certain ways, but I thought that one of my end goals for my career might have been like working in the energy industry and coming up with like renewable energy solutions and things. To my surprise, I ended up getting involved in that after my first semester in blockchain at Berkeley, and actually learned so much more in so much less time than I expected about energy because I was researching the applications of blockchain and energy. Mashiat mentioned this earlier, but we were working with two PhD candidates at Berkeley who were creating a blockchain-based system for coordinating renewable or distributed energy resources. And that just means that it would make renewable energy more efficient, more scalable, if blockchain were more scalable. We'll get to that later. And it would be easier to integrate renewables into the grid. I didn't think I would learn about any of this until like years into my career if I were to get into energy. But it was like such an honor to be trusted with that kind of project and be able to just like dive into it right away. For me, like blockchain and energy, it's super fascinating, and a lot of people ask me about it, but even more so, it is reliant on other issues in the industry right now. So I try to kind of like mitigate the hype and let people know that it's more crucial right now to learn and develop on the protocol level of blockchain technology than it is to go overboard in brainstorming with what it can do in, for example, the energy industry. And a lot of these women here are working on issues related to that, for example, like scalability, different types of consensus, which they will talk about, I assume. And those things are probably what I consider the most important activity in this space right now.
Yeah, so I think like this pertains to the fact that like this industry is relatively in its infancy. So all knowledge that's in blockchain depends on how quickly you discipline yourself to learn it. And I think that that's part of the reason that got me a lot of interesting opportunities in this space. So in addition to working with decentralized energy resources with Melissa, which was a field beforehand I had no experience in, and I basically got complete exposure to work with PhD students from the School of Civil Engineering who already wrote an algorithm on minimizing energy wastage and ensuring that there's crypto economic incentive to trade energy in remote communities. Had to pretty much learn all of that. We created deliverables for it. We created a video for it, which I did not have any experience. So I literally had to animate in 5 hours, which was really interesting. And it really led me to broaden my skills in different areas. But I think that one of the most interesting projects that I actually worked on, and even though supply chain is not necessarily the most interesting use case, I feel like this project was interesting because it was for the Dubai government, and it was to create a supply chain system to track 3D printed prosthetics in the hospital network system. And it was really interesting to work with agencies that worked with the Dubai government, work with developers, work with all of these diverse teams, learn how to communicate with them. Because with every person who has a different role, you will have to learn how to communicate with them differently. That's something that we saw when we put up SHE256 as well. Communicating with designers, communicating with logistics, communicating with marketing teams. It's those skills that I really value, and that has really shown me how to become a better project manager, and has really given me and has really opened gateways for me to meet with these amazing people who are really high up there. And coming into Berkeley, everyone's really intimidated, or going to college, everyone's really intimidated. They're intimidated to go to career fairs or network with people. And the thing with blockchain is that the way you learn is by networking with people. And you pick up things from how they talk, you pick up things from the ideas that they talk about. And that's extremely, extremely valuable. And that's something that I learned just by doing all of these projects and getting that deep dive exposure. And yeah, so that's what the cool opportunity was, Yeah, just that exposure.
So there are lots of cool experiences I've had. If I had to pick up a couple of them. So when I first got into proof of stake research or crypto economics, some of my biggest idols were Vitalik, were people like Jay Kwan in this space, or like Professor Elaine Shi, who's coming to talk later today, or Dr. Manoush. And these were all people I never imagined I would ever go have a conversation with. But when we finally sat down and cranked out a little bit of a paper, Vitalik read it and gave us some feedback on it, and came down to Berkeley to talk to us about it. I was like, wait, what? What's happening right now? Oh yeah, so Vitalik is the founder of Aetherium. And it was a pretty crazy experience. And I think from there, realizing that if you truly want to make an impact and you spend hours just learning all your blockchain, putting in that effort, you can be an expert in this space. And you can not just have these conversations with these people, but you can be friends with these people, people like Sunny Agarwal, and have conversations about topics like privacy. You meet crazy people who've thought so much about how much the government is tracking them. They have burner cell phones. They use only Signal. Even if they ever were to use something, they set up telephone lines so that telemarketers can't reach them but have to pay if they ever want to reach them. They think of all of these crazy techniques so that they can have privacy. And then you start to realize where the space or where the motivations for Bitcoin and blockchain and the whole field came from. I guess from there, also talking to people about things like Buddhist meditation or being friends with some of the coolest researchers in this space and having this community of people to bounce off my ideas and have this compounding effect just because we're willing to learn and grow has been the best experience for me. Finding people like Alexis and Zubin who work on crypto economics research and really push me to grow every day has been the best and the most rewarding experience.
So picking up on many of the themes we've been hearing about, what's, I think, extremely exciting about being in the blockchain space and a motivator for those of you who are just getting started is that you can make an impact and sit at the table with a lot of leaders and a lot of thinkers very quickly, because there are few experts and you can be the expert in the room just by putting in the time. And for me, this has manifested in a couple cool experiences as well. So for instance, I'm an MBA student here, and some of my classmates are interested in autos, so they're working hard to get internships at places like Ford Smart Mobility and network with these organizations. But by being a blockchain expert or quasi-expert, I am at a table in Palo Alto once a month with mobility leaders at Ford and many other auto companies, helping form a dialogue about how to use blockchain in automotives. So this is a really access that's incredible for an MBA student. And this is the kind of access that we have by having put in that time and learning about the technology, because it's so new. And also because there is little research out there, little writing, and few experts. And it's wonderful to learn from these experts and to have these experiences. Again, because there is not that much research put out about the space yet, there's a lot of sort of blue sky or opportunity for me to write about blockchain just on Medium. So I'll just post articles on Medium. I think together my articles have 50,000 views or more right now. And some cool things happen. So last week, I got a bunch of LinkedIn messages and realized that one of my articles on blockchain in enterprise has become its own learning unit in Oxford's online blockchain program. And so I got a lot of people reaching out to me and asking questions. So that was fun. Or another one was picked up as required reading for a class here at Haas on currency markets, a cryptocurrency article. And so again, just opportunities that as an MBA student would be really difficult to have, or as undergrads would be difficult to have in other industries. Because blockchain is new, there are a few other experts and research and writing out there in the space. You can make an impact and build a career and sit at the table in really exciting ways.
Lots of really, really cool stuff and really cool experiences that everyone on this panel has gotten to be a part of as a part of being in the space. But it's not always roses, right? So I was wondering, like, what are some of the challenges that you faced in the space and how have you overcome them?
I wanted to, again, reiterate a shout out to the whole blockchain at Berkeley community. For me, I don't have a technical background, but people sitting at this table and sitting in the front row, like Alex Tren and Sunny, have taken a lot of patience to teach me, and also to edit those articles that have had the impact that they did. And that wouldn't be possible without having favors and receiving the support of other people. So that really helped me here at Berkeley. And I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. So I would say, like, advice, leveraging your network and getting advice and help and favors that hopefully you could reciprocate later from from very smart people is very helpful.
So when I first joined Blockchain at Berkeley, they decided they wanted to have a department called Education, and they decided they wanted to have me as head of education. Two things which I did not want to do. One, be a leader. Two, be a leader. I was fine just being in the background. I was not confident enough to go up there, let alone start a new department. I was supposed to teach a course. Like, I didn't even know the contents of that course. I was supposed to design a curriculum. I didn't know enough about blockchain to design that. I was supposed to create a certification, but what was I going to test? I didn't know enough to test others. But just having this group of people like Max, John Ronan, Sunny, who really supported me and who believed in me and who just kept saying, you know, we see a leader in you that you don't see, and like helping me along the way, like when I had to, like telling me read these management books, like high output management, or whenever I had I was struggling with starting initiatives, like figuring out how to structure it, who to talk to, how to go about doing whatever I was doing. Having these people who were just there and who helped me anytime that I needed, as long as I could show that I was willing to put in the time and effort to grow, really helped me, and I'm really grateful to have that.
So yeah, for me, I think, yeah, it's definitely not been a walk, like a complete walk in the park. Same as Ashley, I would say, like, I don't come from a really technical background, and I still don't have that full technical expertise that I would like to achieve. And that's been a very difficult learning curve for me. Especially because being head of finance, there are sometimes a lot of administrative roles that you have to take care of, and that really does hinder the learning process. And you kind of have to balance everything, balance blockchain at Berkeley, balance your role at blockchain at Berkeley, and then balance school and life and all of that. But nevertheless, I think that it's definitely the community at blockchain at Berkeley, and it's definitely the community that the blockchain industry provides that really makes me want to stay. I've met some of the best friends ever in this industry, like for life, and I would never exchange that for anything. I've been able to work with amazing people for movements that I really believe in, and that is SHE256. I mean, I'll be honest, being a woman in any tech industry or in any industry is difficult. We face our challenges every single day, and sometimes it does feel like we have to work harder to prove ourselves. But that's exactly why we did SHE256. And I'm so proud to work with Alexis, Meta, Sarah, and the entire SHE256 team to make this happen. Because if we can bring visibility to all of these communities in the space, then we can truly create awareness and change the entire ratio. And that's really what I'm excited for, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, that was nice. That was really nice. Well, I guess we've all kind of mentioned that there's a really steep learning curve in the blockchain space, and that intimidated me too for a long time. When I joined, Aparna was already head of education, and I was like, wow, what a badass. Like, she knew everything, or at least it seemed. I don't know. Like, I think she did, yeah. So of course, like, you can give the advice of just like study hard, do the work, blah, 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 but it's not always like that straightforward. There's a whole aspect of confidence to it too, where like it's hard to tell when you know things, like when you are knowledgeable, because you'll always sit in front of someone and hear them talk about something that they know more about, and then you'll say, there's a whole thing to this that I have not even looked into yet. And then when you start looking into it, you see another keyword that you've never heard of, and you have to go trace that one back too, and it just keeps on going. So that's like a several month-long process, and you just have to stick with it. One of the most valuable things that I've done to overcome this, and I kind of touched on this earlier, is going to like conferences and events. So there were the previous heads of consulting of blockchain at Berkeley, John and Ronan, basically got me and Gloria Zhao, another member, an opportunity to speak on a panel at a conference in Berkeley last June called Blockchain for Cybersecurity and Social Impact. And we presented some projects that we were working on. That was my first time talking in front of a crowd about blockchain. And I realized that they were listening to me, even though I had only gotten to the industry like 5 months earlier. And that was pretty cool. After that, the whole like networking thing, like I was afraid of at first, but I realized it's like learning a new language. Like you have to immerse yourself in conversations about blockchain with people in order to become comfortable talking about it. And I did that like as much as possible when I could. In November, I was invited to the United Nations Climate Conference in Bonn, Germany, to do like a week-long brainstorm kind of hackathon thing for blockchain and climate change. And when I came back from that, I realized that I had been speaking about blockchain for 7 days straight, like nothing else, like maybe like, are you hungry or something, but it was just that. And that was one of my like really pivotal points in gaining that confidence that I can stand in front of people and I can feel comfortable in what I know. still knowing that there's a lot more to learn. There's a lot more to learn. Yeah.
Wow, super, super great hearing about all of these challenges that you guys have overcome and all of the exciting experiences you've had in the space. So at this point, I'd definitely like to open it up to questions from the crowd. If anyone has anything particular you'd like to ask the panelists, this would be a great time to go ahead and raise your hand and we can run a mic over to you.
Hi, I have a question in terms of for learning blockchain. What book do you recommend in terms of your favorite book? Thanks.
Well, to get started with, there's the Blockchain at Berkeley course. But if you're more of a reader, there's a Blockchain at Berkeley textbook that's coming soon. But if you do want to read an existing textbook, Mastering Bitcoin is a great book. There's a Princeton textbook on Introduction to Blockchain. And both of these give you a comprehensive understanding of Bitcoin so that once you understand that, you can go on to apply that knowledge to basically reading any white paper in the field.
And the Princeton textbook is free, and it's very good. So just Google Princeton Bitcoin textbook, and then if you just slowly read and reread and reread and reread the paragraphs.
And don't be afraid to jump right into white papers, even if you're kind of uncomfortable with it. But if there's a blockchain startup that you've heard of a lot and you think is interesting, they usually do have at least a little overview too, just to help you review what the key terms are. And it kind of helps you understand what you don't know and push yourself further.
Once you start reading white papers or just abstracts of white papers, you just get really comfortable with it. So the next white paper, you can just skim through it and you'll immediately know what they're kind of talking about or what their proof of concept is, vaguely based on. And that just really gets you comfortable with the language of blockchain.
Yeah, and I think one thing I'm going to add to that is that ask a lot of questions. The blockchain space is really special in that it's a really open community. So if you hop on Reddit or Blockchain at Berkeley Slack or just random corners of the internet, there'll be people who are like-minded who are also trying to learn, people who have been in this space for a long time, who are really happy to help you out and answer your questions and get more people involved in the space.
And if you do that a lot, eventually people will ask you to write their white papers.
Just be really careful with that, yeah.
Say no.
Yeah.
I want availability of those super cool Blockchain at Berkeley sweatshirts. So cool. But my I understand it's only for members, but I'm feeling excluded in a distributed, inclusive world. But my actual question is, I found as you start to learn about this and read about it, and you get so excited and you just want to get involved, and what are the earliest ways to just, it's such an open space, offer help to projects, or what would you say people's steps should be to get involved? Because it doesn't necessarily mean immediately switching careers or whatever. How would you say just general people should go from the point you're saying now, read the white papers, to getting involved?
So I would definitely say go to meetups. Meetups are a great way to actually interact with founders of blockchain startups. And, they're not actually ICO pitches. They're basically, founders who come and they actually talk a little bit more about their proof of concept. So it goes a little bit more in depth, and you get to directly talk to them, and you get to directly interact with people who are interested in the space and just as beginner in the space as you, and they want to learn more together. So that's a great interactive kind of way to get your involvement in the blockchain space, get it jump started without even committing too much of your resources. And these meetups usually are an hour, 2 hours max. And we actually run our own meetup, which is the Berkeley Bitcoin meetup. It is one of the most successful projects and initiatives out of Blockchain at Berkeley, with over 2K members. And we feature some of the best speakers and founders in the industry. So, you can totally come and learn, and that's a wonderful way to get involved with baby steps.
Yeah, other things, shout out to Alex Tran for the meetups, by the way. So meetups are a great way. Go out to conferences. You're doing the right thing right here. Mm-hmm. Also, look at the different projects that you're interested in. They often have Slacks or discords or some sort of community forum to talk to other people. Get involved there. Sometimes if you really want, you can cold email people and just say, this is why I'm interested, and they'll get back to you.
If you're still in school, it's never too early to start like that community within your school as well, because inevitably there are going to be more and more students that want to learn about it too. If you go to Berkeley, apply to blockchain at Berkeley. And if you go to a different university, we are actually coordinating like a global blockchain university initiative where many, many different schools around the world are starting to do the same thing. And it just started as very simple discussion circles with people who were passionate about the technology and wanted to learn more. Eventually, they learned how to develop, and they just kind of cold called companies and were like, we know how to make proof of concepts for blockchain. Do you want us to help you? And that gained them a lot more traction and kind of grew blockchain at Berkeley into what it is now. And I'm sure that it can do the same for other initiatives around the world. There's a big need for academic focus in blockchain. So even if you're in school, like actually, especially if you're in school, it's like prime time to do things like that. And don't feel limited by your status or title as a student, because in this industry, that is a good thing.
Hi, thank you. I'm interested in different kinds of use cases beyond finance. Like you mentioned the prosthetics in Dubai, and I'm wondering about other things like supply chain and energy. But beyond that, if you could look at a domain and you would see like, oh, these characteristics make this domain a prime fit for solving these problems with blockchain, what would those characteristics be, and what are some problems that you think it could solve in the future?
All right, so let me just first answer the first part of the question, which is like the different use cases. A couple of different use cases that I have really seen a lot of people tackle in the space is identity and user management, or identity and access management. I think that that's it's like a very prevalent sort of issue in the blockchain space. And a lot of different firms have tried to tackle it in a lot of different ways. And I think that one of the main identifiers for that is how they actually measure and quantify identity, whether that is a metric of your name, a metric such as your name or your age or your location or your date of birth, or whether it is a claim to those metrics, which is done by the Sovereign Network, which is an open source protocol by Sovereign. And that's really interesting. It's really sort of an open problem that hasn't really been solved yet. But it's really interesting to see all of these individuals and companies come and put in their resources to kind of tackle it. I don't exactly know how that is going to pan out, but it's a very interesting use case, and I'm really interested in seeing how it's going to solve out. Other use cases that I've seen, so I've worked in the ICO asset management platform for a while, and I'll be honest, a lot of it is noise, right? You know, you'll have Uber for blockchain, or you'll have Expedia for blockchain, or you'll have, what's the other one? Caviar for blockchain, something like that. And many times, and those are use cases, yes, but many times you have to ask yourself, does this use case really need blockchain? Do you really need decentralized, trustless entities making transactions using like an immutable kind of like needing immutability and that level of security that the blockchain provides. Why can't they just do it in a centralized manner? So those are sort of the questions that when I look at blockchain projects and blockchain use cases are what I ask. Does it provide that sort of resilience that the problem really needs? Is there really a need for decentralization, or is it just blockchain for blockchain? Am I just using the word just to get the hype? And that's what a lot of companies are doing. Just looking through all of like my research, I've seen that a lot of companies that do claim to be decentralized are just distributed. They're still centralized, but they're distributed. And that's like that's a nuance that you will have to like kind of figure out while you do the white papers. And that comes from reading white papers and analyzing them in a sort of routine manner, such as, you go through like the product platform, the technical protocol, the team, the community sentiment, because that's essentially, if the platform is tokenized, then the value of the token initially does depend on the sentiment of the community. And then, you just kind of have to do that routine analysis and get your own judgment on it too, and ask those right questions.
To highlight and build off of this idea, with the first example of this use case of identity management, what we're doing is we can assign a human or a machine, maybe a car or even a car part, or a washing machine or an airplane part, whatever it might be, with a digital identity. And we can store information specific to that entity. And because it's being stored on a database that no one else owns or controls except for that asset or that person, because of the nature of this distributed, decentralized database, you can have more assurance that the information is pure, it's not tampered with, it has integrity, and the owner or controller of that information, so a human, if it's maybe my personal health records, or exercise information, or buying habits, or if it's a car, repair history, odometer information, only that the owner can change that information. So it's building off of a lot of the value of the blockchain, which is that no one else can manipulate this information, and also that the owner can own and control that data, and then they can move it or get rid of it, whatever they might want to do. They can also just sell it to other parties and receive money from it, which is called monetization, or self-sovereign data monetization, which could allow people to earn money off of their information if they want to anonymize it and sell it, and kind of or flips the current Web 2.0 or current model of internet applications who are taking your data and selling it a little bit on its head, and gives the power back to the user. So.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we're going to have for questions for this panel right now. However, all of the panelists will be around during the conference today, so definitely encourage you to ask them any questions you might have throughout the day. So let's give a huge round of applause to these amazing panelists.